nationwide this year, including several right here in California.
Everything from Bed Bath & Beyond to Pier 1. KCAL 9's Candace Crone joins us live with more on what we can expect. Candace.
Well, Sharon and Juan, it's already shaping up to be a rough year for many retailers, including Papyrus here on Ventura Boulevard. 1 month after the holiday shopping season, several chain stores are calling it quits. Here's some video. Home goods store Bed Bath & Beyond, it's closing 40 of its stores, including the ones in Encino, Chino Hills, Hemet, and Santa Clarita. Some of those stores already closed or will shut down in the next few months. Now, it's not unusual for store closures after the big holiday shopping season, but the amount of closures just announced seems to reflect an ongoing crisis for the retail industry. Well, here's a list of retailers affected. Pier 1 Imports plans to close up to 450 stores. The owner of stationery and greeting card chains Papyrus and American Greetings will close 246 stores. Macy's shutting down 29 locations. JCPenney also closing 6. Less foot traffic and declining sales.
Şu anda evlerimiz yıkık halindedir. Evlerimiz hasar görmüş, evler oturulmaz haldeler. Köyde insanlarımız öldü, vatandaşlarımız ölmüş. Allah yardım etsin, Allah sabır versin.
Today, the Caribbean was hit by one of the most powerful earthquakes on record in that region, magnitude 7.7. It was centered in the sea between Jamaica and Cuba, and it was felt 450 miles away in Miami. Manuel Bojorquez is there, and Manny, I understand you could feel the shaking.
That's right, and it is rare for Miami to feel the tremors from an earthquake, but this afternoon, some buildings here shook enough that hundreds of people emptied into the streets around town. Now, so far, there are no reports of injuries or damage here, but closer to the epicenter, which is between Cuba and Jamaica, videos appear to show where giant sinkholes opened up in the Cayman Islands. The earthquake struck just after 2 this afternoon, causing panic in areas where the jolt was much stronger. So far, no reports of widespread damage or injury there either, but there is concern about aftershocks, especially after just hours later, a 6.1 struck the area.
The other news this Friday night, the U.S. now declaring a public health emergency amid this outbreak of the coronavirus across the globe. We have now witnessed the largest spike yet in deaths in a 24-hour period since this outbreak began. New restrictions here in the U.S. Foreign nationals who pose a risk of spreading the virus will be barred from entering the country, and planes from China will now only be allowed at 7 airports in the U.S. And tonight, the 195 Americans evacuated from China and in quarantine at a military base in California have now been told they must remain there for 2 weeks. And we have just learned tonight a 7th case now confirmed here in the U.S. Here's ABC's Adrian Bankert.
Tonight, in a rare move, the U.S. declaring coronavirus a public health emergency. President Trump barring foreign nationals who pose a transmission risk from entering the country. In effect, a temporary ban on nearly all Chinese travelers, the world's most populous country. Planes from China will only be allowed to land at 7 U.S. airports starting Sunday. Americans returning from the hot zone could be subject to 14 days of quarantine. Already in isolation, 195 Americans who chartered from the epicenter of the outbreak. What was once a 3-day voluntary observation now extended to a mandatory 2 weeks at an airbase in Riverside, California. The first time in 50 years the CDC has had to issue such an order.
We were all wearing masks. We were all taking major precautions to not touch or shake hands or take the mask off our faces because, again, we weren't in the clear.
Today, officials said no one was presenting any symptoms, but the virus has a 2-week incubation period. Officials are exercising extreme caution.
We are relieved to hear this. We don't want to put anybody at risk back home, and if this is the best way to do that, then we're okay with it.
Patrick and Ping Stockstill and their 2 young children, the eldest just 3 years old, are all stuck on the base after visiting relatives in China.
I left my family behind. I didn't have a choice, and I feel so bad that they're still stuck in China, and I had to go.
Hundreds of Americans remain stranded in Wuhan, waiting for the government to send in another charter.
I feel a little bit trapped and alone. It's an interesting feeling. You're trapped, you're isolated.
Tonight, 3 major U.S. airlines and dozens of international carriers are suspending flights to China. This after the State Department issued a do not travel advisory warning against traveling to the country. Cases in China spiking with the largest jump in fatalities in a 24-hour period. 213 deaths since the outbreak began. Roughly 9,700 cases confirmed. Wuhan remains on lockdown, the city a ghost town.
Everybody.